let's crack on. We'll take question number one here that's coming from Jane. Hi there, Jane. Jane asks, would you recommend training to become a surveyor? And what's the process like to become qualified? Well, it's a great question, Jane, nice and short and sweet. So I'll get straight into that. For me, Jane, it was quite an intense approach. So I trained to become a building surveyor. And in the surveying world, there are various different niches, if you like, of surveying that you can go into. And it depends what it is that you want to do. I chose building surveying because it seemed to make sense to me, right? It was just, learn about buildings. And I thought, well, I know a little bit about that, so I'll give that a try. So I tried building surveying as a route to go down. And for me, it was, I was never a great student, I'll be honest with you, at school. It was never really my thing, and I didn't really want to go to university. So I did my degree part-time, whilst I also worked full-time to try and maintain an income. And I didn't want to have student debt and all that sort of thing. So I did the whole part-time thing, and I was working as an estate agent at the time whilst I did my degree bit. But then I trained to become a building surveyor and project manager in a sort of junior undergraduate surveyor's role. And that involved me going into Birmingham City Centre to learn more about surveying and project management, in particular working on multi-million-pound commercial buildings and all that sort of thing, project managing those. And that was good. It was good experience. But what I realized going through it is I'd go home and I'd start learning all of this material because I'd heard that the final exam, which is where they kind of sort the wheat from the chaff, it's like an hour's final exam or interview, should I say, and it's with three sort of big surveyors at the top of their game, and they can ask you a question on anything that they like, right? So it kind of puts the fear of God into you. So I thought, well, I must learn an awful lot to get into this role. And so I was reading pages and pages of information, literally box files of information, books that I could get my hands on. And my learning process was really slow. And I'd read a page in a book and I'd sit back and go, what the hell did I just read? I can't remember any of this. And it got really frustrating. I'll tell you this little personal story, and there's a reason why in a minute. But I was driving home from work one day, and I came to this realization after listening to a Radio 4 article, and I don't know why. I just sort of flicked onto that radio station. They were talking about using nootropics, which is like cognitive enhancing drugs, right? And I thought, oh, maybe that could solve my problem, right? Because I was pretty desperate. I didn't know what to do. So I started searching on the internet about cognitive enhancing drugs. And I found out that there was this thing at the time, I think they've closed now, but it was called Dore Clinic, D-O-R-E. And I went and had some tests done, and they found that I was mildly dyslexic and I had ADHD. So I was like, oh, maybe this explains why I'm struggling to learn and I'm not very studious and all that sort of thing. And so the learning process became incredibly intense for me to understand what it was that a surveyor did and all the things they had to take into account when you were looking at buildings, and particularly with project management. And that process for me was one of the most intense of my life. I was actually, not only was I working full-time, trained to become a surveyor, it was an hour each way commute as long as I left at 6:30 in the morning to get into Birmingham City Centre. And then I was leaving at like 7:30 at night to miss all the traffic. So it was a long day anyway. And then on the side, I was also renovating my home at the time, and I was doing a barn conversion. So at one point, I was literally living in a caravan on the side of a field with a cold hosepipe as a shower. And that's no exaggeration. I still have horrible memories to this day about cold showers and hosepipes. But all of that was, as I say, a very intense period, and trying to do all of this learning as well at the same time was really difficult. But I think the point of me telling you all of that was I put the work in, and I was one of the few, or in fact, there's only 1 in 3 surveyors will actually pass the final interview when they're trained to become a building surveyor. And I was very proud that I actually went through on the first round, which was a complete shock. If I'm honest, I still don't know how I did it. And today I remember, looking at the envelope when it came in the post and thinking, do I open this thing or not? Do I know if I passed or not? It was an intense process, but the point of me sharing all of that with you is the one thing that helped me more than anything was having practical hands-on experience of property rather than just reading stuff in a textbook and not knowing what it was all about. I remember reading as an estate agent, I read in this book, we were studying about the rise and fall method in surveying, and I was like, what the heck is the rise and fall method in surveying? I had no clue about this, right? And so I started to ask some of the surveyors in our practice that I thought are going to know, right? Because they've been surveyors for years. Not a clue. Nobody had a clue. And you start looking, and this was kind of like almost pre-internet days when I was first studying. And eventually, it became clear after looking through several books. It was all about how you set out sites if you're doing what do they call it now? Not geometric surveying, but you know what I mean. When you're setting out a site for a building or whatever, and you're measuring the ground and the undulations in the ground, all that sort of thing. It was to do with that, and I thought, okay, great. Well, that was an old method of doing it, and now everything's done by laser and theodolite and all that sort of thing as well. So the point of me sharing all of that with you, Jane, is to sort of suggest if you want to become a surveyor, I'd wholeheartedly encourage you to reach out and go for it. Understand it's going to be a fairly intense process, or it might not be for you. You might be more intelligent than I am, and you'll breeze through it. I don't know, but that would be a process that I'd go through and get some hands-on experience wherever you can, whether that's renovating your own home or being involved with people who are doing the same. Just so you can understand little details. And of course, there are very, very different nuances in surveying, marine surveying, and all that sort of thing as well, civil engineering, all different brands of surveying. So just try and get as much hands-on experience as you can, get your hands dirty, and hopefully it will give you the backup knowledge that you need rather than just being purely out of a textbook, because that's definitely the way to learn, in my opinion. They say it's very much like, when you learn to drive, you only really learn to drive after you pass your test, and I think a lot of it could be the same with things like surveying as well. So, hope that answers your question, Jane. Thanks for sending that one in, and good luck. And if there's anything we can do to help, obviously just let us know. But yeah, good luck with that. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. End of another webinar. I apologize if I've spoken a bit quickly. I've drunk quite a bit of coffee today to try and keep myself awake whilst we've been doing this different work in different time zones, and all the travel experience we've been doing as well, which has been pretty full on. So as I say, I've got loads going on in the background at the moment. I'm super excited to bring all of this to you, because I think we're going to shake up the market quite a bit, and we're going to ruffle a few feathers as we're going along. So that's always pretty exciting. But I think the way things are going at the moment in the economy, and interestingly, my the set of in-laws are asking me this question: what's happening in the economy in England? What's happening with Rishi and all the rest of it? And I do see some potentially darker times ahead. I do see a big change in the property market coming. That's just my own view. Not trying to scare anybody here. I understand that there's a lot of different opinions out there at the moment with interest rates and what's happening with mortgage prices and all the rest of it. But from my side, I still think there's a lot of problems that weren't worked out from 2008. And what has happened over the course of the last sort of 14 years is that they've inflated the asset values on their bank books to try and get themselves out of a big nasty hole. But I'm still convinced that a lot of problems haven't been dealt with, which will probably start to come to light over the course of the next 12 months. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting ride. But I definitely think now, well, actually 6 months ago was the time, but now is definitely the time for any estate agents or solicitors or surveyors or letting agents or anybody who's involved in the property market. Now is the time to really start to change your game as far as how you go about marketing and selling your services, and how you go about marketing and disposing of properties for clients, because the changes that are coming, I think it's going to reward those who play the longer term game. Okay, so the whole listed on the internet portals and sell it or let it quickly is going to change drastically to it could potentially take 6 months to sell a property. And what do you do in that period of time? How do you then keep your business, the doors to your business open when you've had 18 months of delayed fees coming through your pipeline because of delayed transaction times and all the rest of it? It's playing the long game now, which is going to win. And it's only those that are embracing a lot of the things that I talk about in Estate Agent Secrets that are going to win the agency game in the future and the professional services game in the future for property professionals. So there's a lot going on, a lot of which we're trying to solve a lot of those problems for people. So it's going to be very encouraging to work with a lot of you guys in the future going forward. I'd encourage you to reach out to me if you're interested in getting ahead of the pack, because there will be a tsunami when everything starts to be released. There will be a tsunami of people coming in and saying, we need to work with you. And then it'll be too late, because can't work with everybody. We can only work with a limited number of people or a limited number of businesses to give them the level of standard of service that we want to. So I will encourage you to reach out to me before then. But certainly from our side, any members of the public who are watching this, anybody who's got any property questions at all, whatever they're related to, please send them in to us. You can send those in to our website, which is wiggywam.co.uk, or you can send them in via our email address, which is happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. That's happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter, which is at @wiggywam_UK. Okay, and we'd be delighted to take all of your questions. We'd be delighted to deal with them. I'm going to be around here in India for the next week as well. And it's a bit touch and go as to whether or not we'll be back from our travels in time for next Wednesday's webinar. So I'll keep you guys posted on as to whether or not that's going to go ahead or not. I'm hoping it will be, and it'll be after we've had what I think will be an enlightening experience at the top of a mountain, which will be pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, let's see how we get on. And if I can make it, great, we'll do another webinar next week. If I can't, we'll bump it to the Thursday and we'll run it then as well. So great to spend some time with you guys. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. As always, as I say, any questions that you've got, send those in via the usual channels. And I'll look forward to seeing you all very soon on another episode. All right, you take care, guys. Thanks for joining me. Bye.